Exactly, yeah. And, we usually see these more speculative assets really start to pump and get attention when the crowd is in a relatively good mood. And we can't forget the fact that we've been in basically an 8-month bull cycle. Yes, technically the all-time high for Bitcoin was 3 months ago,
Mm.
but we're also only like 2 to 3% below that all-time high right now.
Yeah.
Even though it's been kind of a roller coaster and people have been stressed and anxious, the reality is we're right there at the cusp of breaking that new all-time high, and that allows, profit redistribution to keep flowing into these other speculative assets.
Welcome to the Thinking Crypto podcast. We're going to talk about some crypto metrics today with Brian from Sentiment. Brian, great to have you on.
Great to be here, Tony. Fun time in crypto right now.
Yeah, Brian, it's wild, man. There's so much going on with meme coins, meme stocks, Bitcoin ETF flows, Ethereum spot ETFs getting approved. So we want to look at the data, aside from all the emotions and all the euphoric sentiment and so forth. But let's look at the data. Maybe we can start off with meme coins because we've been seeing celebrity meme coins. We got the GameStop situation going on, which is kind of feeding over into memes, right? It's both kind of the same energy, right? Retail piling in, getting excited and so forth.
Exactly. Yeah. You kind of give or take when it comes to meme coins. Throughout 2024, especially, it's been a lot more partying than sorrow for the meme coin traders out there. But as of late, we've seen a bit of a shift with that. Even though there's plenty of talk about it, it's a little more for negative reasons right now, depending on which meme coin you're talking about. GameStop, of course, more than doubled back in May and then kind of had a second wave earlier this week. We're talking about the stock, of course, not the token, but both are kind of relevant. They trade with each other. And now I think people are a little bit concerned. There's some FUD being spread about GameStop due to the stock going down more than 20% at the time of this recording. The trading day is not over, so who knows? And of course, the token itself is seeing a few bumps at the moment. So let me share my screen and we can look at a few things here. Perfect. So this is the overall amount of social mentions toward GME. We can actually, make it GME or GameStop. So you can use words like or and if you want to combine different words together. For you Excel wizards or Python wizards out there, you're totally familiar with that kind of stuff. But what this does is just combine the two. Any mentions of GameStop or the abbreviation GME, they're all being calculated in here among all platforms. You can even break it down by Telegram mentions, Reddit mentions, Twitter /X, 4chan, and Bitcoin Talk. You can see most of it, which you would expect, is on Reddit, because that's kind of where the whole GameStop craze started back in 2021. Right. So when you combine all 5 of those platforms together, you get a pretty clear picture that we're on a big spike once again in terms of discussion rate of GameStop. We had that first big run when Roaring Kitty came back after his 3-year hibernation. And of course, GameStop went on a huge run. In fact, let me turn on, I can change the price to show GameStop's price, like so. So you can see pretty clearly how the social dominance, that's what the red is. This is the percentage of discussions related to GameStop versus all of the discussions in crypto. It just exploded with discussion right here in mid-May. I'm not sure, by the way, what happened on April 1st. Maybe it was a April Fool's joke, but many of you may know better than me. Wouldn't be surprising considering it's the meme crowd. But regardless, when you see these spikes, the reason this is relevant, not just interesting, is because you see FOMO come in when price goes up. So you see this pump. Then you see the social dominance go nuts toward GameStop. And then if you wait a few hours, usually there's some time to react to the FOMOing going on. You suddenly see the top form and a huge crash come. And it's with many assets, it's not quite this extreme, but when you're talking about a purely speculative type of project like GameStop, it's going to see a lot of volatility, and that's essentially what happened here. Huge retrace. People stopped talking about GameStop for a few weeks, and then, oh, what do you know? June kicks off with another big pump, and the FOMO comes right back. Right after it does, prices pull back. People start to, you know, dismiss GameStop once again down here, and then that dismissal forms the bottom, and then we get another huge surge. FOMO comes in and another retrace. It's incredibly predictable when you follow this kind of chart, and it's not a perfect science, but it's a pretty helpful aid when it comes to finding those tops and bottoms.
Oh yeah, and this is why I love this data from Sentiment because versus me picking arbitrary signals on social media or whatever, and my limited sample size, I can use big data like this and from multiple platforms to get an idea what's happening if I was, looking to trade this or see what impact it may have on the larger stock market or even crypto.
Exactly. Yeah. And, I think most people in crypto who've been around long enough have realized to a certain extent, all of these coins are going up and down based on speculation. Some might even argue it's almost all speculation. Uh, at Sentiment, we basically, say that that's half the equation, and then the other equation is whales. How much are they accumulating at any time?
Hmm.
So it's not just, how much does the crowd believe or not believe in GameStop? It's for those people holding just a ton of GME coins. Are they pushing up the price? Is Roaring Kitty himself one of those whales? And is he, secretly accumulating, publicly accumulating? Is he really just diamond fisting like everyone thinks he is? If we knew his address, it would be easy. But regardless, we can see what whales are doing, and that can give a nice picture on top of all the FOMO and FUD that's going on.
Mm. Now, we're also seeing this type of activity with celebrity meme coins and certain meme coins in general. I don't know if you saw it, like Iggy Azalea, you had the Bowden and the Trump meme coins.
Yeah,
And I feel like these are going to go even more crazy as we get closer to the elections.
definitely. I don't know if I remember the ticker for the Iggy Azalea one, but if you find it or know it, let me know
It's
and I'll
it's
add it to this chart.
mother, mother.
Mother?
Yeah, it's
Of course it is.
what a time we live in, man.
I know. So this is a combined look at all three of those kind of hot meme coins right now.
Mm,
Trump actually got most of its attention back in mid-May.
mm,
Bowden has kind of actually tailed off, even though, we might have seen some stuff recently. It might have been due to a little bit of a price pump. It isn't really being talked about any more frequently than it has over the past 3 months. In fact, I'd argue it's actually declining in discussion.
mm.
Uh, Meanwhile, Mother definitely is a good candidate right now. I'm not going to say in terms of a price pump coming up. That's up to you. But in terms of crowd attention, it's certainly gaining a lot of steam right now at this time of this recording. So that could be worth looking into if you're just a fan of volatility.
Mm.
This is certainly going to be a an indicator that would indicate you're going to see more wild swings for Mother in particular.
Yeah, Iggy Azalea has been well, I shouldn't say pump, but has been posting a lot of content and salacious content on Twitter. So it's been getting a lot of traction. And then I think the spike for Trump was when he came out and supported crypto and made some very bullish statements about it. And Biden hasn't really been saying or doing much. So his meme coin has been going down. It's so funny, man. While it's a joke, it's reflective of some of the things that are happening in real life.
Exactly. Yeah. And, we usually see these more speculative assets really start to pump and get attention when the crowd is in a relatively good mood. And we can't forget the fact that we've been in basically an 8-month bull cycle. Yes, technically the all-time high for Bitcoin was 3 months ago,
Mm.
but we're also only like 2 to 3% below that all-time high right now.
Yeah.
Even though it's been kind of a roller coaster and people have been stressed and anxious, the reality is we're right there at the cusp of breaking that new all-time high, and that allows, profit redistribution to keep flowing into these other speculative assets.
Hmm. Now let's take a look at the meme coins at large. I know you guys have a great social graph showing overall meme coins and what's been happening. Maybe you can share some takeaways from this.
Totally. Yeah. So this is our list of the top 50 meme coins by market cap. You've got Dogecoin here, which has been dead even over the past week. Shiba. Let's even expand it to the past 30 days, have a little more fun with this. So a lot of the big pumpers include MAGA here. So this is Trump, just as you
Mhm.
mentioned, up 178%. Pepe, can't ignore the fact it's up 70%. Floki right there, plus 73. And then you've got Mogcoin, which has almost 3x'd over the past month. And then Turbo's been by far the best performing meme coin. I remember just looking last month and it was down here toward the very bottom of this top 50. And look at this, it's now at, what is this, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's the 10th largest meme coin by market cap all of a sudden. So that's what, a 9x or 8x pump can do for your asset.
Wow. So confirm the top is the social volume changes, and what we were just looking at is price changes, right?
Exactly. So this little bar chart is just the overall price changes. Almost everything's in green, but you see a few like pork is actually falling off a cliff, Viru chain, a few of them out there, but most are up significantly. And then we've got the social volume, and especially for a sector like meme coins, which is so speculative, these matter a lot.
Mm.
Dogecoin not being talked about, while Pepe is being talked about more than twice as often as it was compared to last month. That means you're going to be seeing a lot higher chance of Pepe either continuing to pump or continuing to fall off a cliff. If you wanted to look more specifically, open up Pepe on the social trends page, like I just did for the, Mother and Tremp and Bowden, and you'll see like hour by hour spikes that can really lead you. So Pepe, of course, tons of discussion. Turbo, 169% more than last month. I'm actually shocked it's not like 500% higher considering how
Mm.
much it's pumped. Get the idea. These ones in green here are the ones that are really going to give you a cheat sheet as to the ones where the crowd is looking to next.
Hmm. Um, it's incredible what's happening. So let's talk about Bitcoin because we are starting to see that ETF inflows are on the rise again, BlackRock, Fidelity, and so forth. And it seems like Bitcoin is trying to move upwards to, hit a new all-time high. It's pulling back a bit right now, but look, that's in the daily, which that can swing anyway on a daily. But what are you seeing from a macro standpoint with the data that you guys have?
Yeah, I'll just go over a few of our best metrics for Bitcoin because whether you're into memes or AI or whatever sector you're trading in, you should still be caring about the health of Bitcoin because if it collapses at some point, especially near this all-time high, your coins are going to go down,
Hmm.
and vice versa. If it breaks this new all-time high and is off to the races toward 80K, that's where your other altcoins are going to be very relevant. So, looking at Bitcoin's key whales, it's funny. We usually use this chart because the 10 to 10,000 BTC wallets, which hold about 2/3 of the supply, they're a really relevant uh, tier that really kind of shows which direction Bitcoin might be going next. Price follows what these holders do quite accurately. However, we had the trustee of the Mount Gox situation consolidate a ton of wallets back a couple weeks ago, and that really skewed this tier. It kind of gives a false representation of how much they're holding. So what I'm looking at now is this line. Just any wallet that's 10 or above. That includes the wallets that they consolidated into from Mt. Gox. And generally, as you'd expect, when wallets holding 10 or more Bitcoin, or right now about $700,000 or more, when they're going up, so does the price. When they're going down, price tends to get a little more choppy and unpredictable and worrisome. So since right around the end of 2023, it's been a big party of going up and up and up. And these bars here represent the daily price closes. And obviously they benefited from that. Right around here on May 27th or so, it kind of started to change direction and it's been sliding down just slightly. Not to a significant degree, but enough where there's a little bit of pause for worry right now. We can zoom this out to like the last 4 years, and you can see the last time we really saw a drop from this bright green line was starting in February of 2022 and going all the way to right around the end of the year. And as you remember, 2022 is not a fun year for crypto. Interest rates go nuts, and lots of reasons after that 2021 all-time high to be a little bit worried about a retrace. So the whales just said, I'm good. I'm going to start taking a lot of profit here. And during that time, Bitcoin really plummeted as well. So after that, we had, of course, the FTX crash near the end as well, and that caused chaos. But they started to accumulate again right at the beginning of 2023. And since that accumulation time, prices 4x'd for Bitcoin, which is massive. And it's just been more and more and more accumulation right up until about 2 weeks ago. So I'm not going to say we're about to just start to see them dump, but there are some caution signs showing that they're not accumulating in the aggressive fashion they have for the past year and a half.
Gotcha. Could be like they're waiting to see what the market does, if it's going to correct further down before maybe taking additional positions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes they just wait for those big swings and then they react. Some people think the whales are the only ones who cause big swings. Sometimes it's the crowd themselves that kind of start a domino effect, and then the whales decide whether to stop that domino effect or, continue that pattern.
Interesting.
The other thing I wanted to show here was the MVRV. So this is just the overall average of returns based on any address that's been active in the past 30 days here in orange or 365 days here in teal. Generally, prices are most likely to go up when both of these lines are below zero. And right now, they're both a bit above zero. The 30-day is just a tad above. So traders in the past 30 days are up 1% on average. Traders in the past 365 days are still up about 30%. That long-term trend has been kind of the long-term worry for us ever since the all-time high, when they were up like almost 70% on average. You won't necessarily see these lines always fall back below, and that's the clear signal to buy. Think of it kind of like as a risk probability. The higher above zero these two lines are, the more concern and caution you should have, typically, based just solely on the math. And right now, it's kind of like at a, if 1 is bearish and 10 is super bullish, it's showing it like a 3.5 right now. So it's not the best picture. I wish I could give you better news, but this is just based on MVRV, of course, and this is a zero-sum game at the end of the day, even though we sometimes forget that. So average trader returns are still high, and historically, we need to see a little bit of a cool down period, or at least see prices kind of flatten out for a little longer before you see a resuming of, the party.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And given what took place up to the halving with these ETF buying and Bitcoin way ahead of schedule, no one was expecting 74,000 hitting an all-time high before the halving, which never happened in the history. I think a pretty extended cool down period is probably needed. And like you're saying, the data is kind of showing that, kind of telling that story.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes there might be like a quick jump over the all-time high and then the cool down starts. There's no guarantee we don't hit that milestone first. So be prepared for anything.
Yeah, for sure. Now let's talk about Ethereum because we got the approval of or the partial approval of the Ethereum spot ETFs. I'm curious what the whales are doing. What signals are you seeing there?
Yeah, definitely. So this is a perfect time to show one of our brand new metrics. We now can see how many coins the whales are holding both overall and on non-exchanges. So this is showing that especially since mid-March, after prices began to retrace, they the non-exchange holders have just erupted with accumulation. And
Mm.
yeah, the overall amount reflects that too in yellow. So again, so much depends on Bitcoin's health and its ability to stay afloat, but Ethereum in particular looks really good right now according to these new metrics we have. They're not dumping at all. They're really just sitting and waiting. And the price, by the way, this is showing the price versus Bitcoin. So this is actually the ratio versus Bitcoin. And I like to look at that more than just the overall price. If you're in an altcoin, pay attention to how it's going versus Bitcoin instead of just the overall price, because that's where you get a really good correlation with what the whales are doing. And you can see what happened last time they had this big aggressive accumulation here in, 2021 when we hit that first all-time high and it got above like 67K or something. So you can see too, like just about a week or two before that true top for Ethereum, that's when they started taking profit and moving down.
Mm.
So this is a pretty cool reflection of how powerful the whales can be.
Wow. Um, And I'm curious because what we've seen is that when Bitcoin is cooling down, sometimes after a pump, its dominance starts to go down, and then some alts will start to move up as though the liquidity is flowing to other assets from Bitcoin
Right.
to other assets. So could it be flowing to ETH now, given that Bitcoin's in a cool down phase?
Yeah, that's a really fair way to look at it because there's profit redistribution out of Ethereum just like there is for Bitcoin.
Mhm.
And when one or the other pump, uh, the associated assets to them are usually the biggest beneficiaries. So like any asset that's on the ERC20 blockchain, they're going to benefit from Ethereum doing well. And obviously the ETF news coming out about a month ago, it wasn't just Ethereum that pumped, it was initially ETH, and then like the following week, all of like the ERC20 meme coins did well. AI coins that, render stuff like that, they did really well. Um, so I think there could definitely be a path for a lot of ERC20 altcoins to thrive, assuming the Ethereum whales continue to show the pattern that they do, and obviously Bitcoin stays propped up.
Mm. So speaking of AI tokens, can we take a look at that and what's been happening on that side of things? I know, like you were mentioning, Render, FET, and so forth have been going crazy for the most part for this year, right? Just ripping. Um, so I'm curious how they're where they're at right now.
Definitely. So this is just the last week of price returns. Some of the highlights for AI and big data tokens are Rose, RSS3, Seer, which by the way is a very high developed coin for those who value that.
Hmm.
GraphLink, NewNet. Most of these I've barely covered because they're so far down the line, but maybe you've heard of them. Flintex, DX Chain, Dairy Protocol. In terms of Render being the second largest over the past, or in AI and big data in general, they're only up about 1% over the past week. And BitTensor's done a little bit better. What was the other one you mentioned?
Oh, Fetch, FET.
Fetch. That's right. So they're the sixth largest, and they've actually been slumping a bit, down 8.5%. I'm curious if I open up their whales and we take a quick look at why that might be struggling right now.
Hmm.
Let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to go to FET on our charts page,
Mhm.
type in whale in search, and I'll do whales not on exchanges and whales overall. So interestingly, let's back it up to like the past year. There was something massive happened here in early May that caused whales to hold way, way more. They went from literally like a billion in FET to 2.14 billion almost overnight. Since that time, it did drop down a little bit, but this shows that Fetch should be doing just fine eventually, even though it's been on a bit of a plummet. I like the way that the whales look here in terms of accumulating, even though it's all at once in one big block. I don't know if that's related to some founders' addresses or exchanges or something, but
Hmm.
the red is non-exchanges. So I would assume that there are some very, very deep pockets that believe in Fetch right now, and that would be a good sign to me that this
So,
plummet will.
sorry to interrupt you there, Brian. So just to confirm, the red and the yellow. So the red is exchanges and the yellow is whales.
Red is non-exchanges, and then
Oh,
yellow is just overall. Yeah,
okay. So wow. So that's an accumulation signal.
it looks like it. Yeah, I mean, according to
Wow.
this, they more than doubled their holdings sometime between May 2nd and 3rd here.
Wow.
Yeah.
There is something coming up where three tokens are going to be merged. If I'm remembering correctly, FET, Singularity Net, and I forgot the other one.
Was it Ocean?
Ocean, yes, they're going to be
Yeah,
merged together. So I wonder if something's happening there, and I'm
that's a
assuming
great point.
all that liquidity is going to be merged together. Um, we'll see what happens with the price and all that.
Yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense actually. There's definitely a bunch of dumping of ocean, maybe due to the merge. So there might be something a little deceptive with this particular metric, but either way, it's still fascinating to see just these wild shifts in holdings between coins.
Well, could you pull up Singularity Net?
Yeah, yeah.
Let's
I'll
see,
scroll
because
through.
that's the one that yeah. And let's see what's
Same thing.
same thing.
So I presume maybe there's something going on where Singularity and Ocean are kind of merging into Fetch,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah,
by
that's the
far the
plan.
largest of the.
Yeah, and they're
Yeah.
gonna relaunch as I forgot, I think it's called the I forgot the name of it. It's some artificial intelligence something alliance or something like that.
Yeah, I don't remember either, but you're on the right track for sure.
Fascinating stuff, man. Brian, anything else you want to highlight before we wrap it up?
I don't think so. I think we covered some good stuff here. I mean, overall, the sentiment is kind of mixed. I
Hmm.
see days where people are super euphoric and calling for an all-time high, and other days where everyone's talking about taking profit and stuff. So, pay a lot of attention to that. You could even go to social trends and do a simple comparison of like just buy versus sell, and you
Hmm.
can kind of get an idea of how much people are calling for one way or another at any given time.
Wow.
Like in the last week, yeah, there's actually a ton of buy calls right now, and I
Hmm.
think it's due to the fact that we've just plummeted in the last few hours. So people are trying to buy the dip,
Sure.
and ironically, when a lot of people are calling to buy the dip, it's a sign that this isn't quite the dip to buy yet. You want to wait until the people are afraid to buy the dip, and that's the time.
Right. Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. So I'm wondering if something is around the corner, some big correction, which we're starting to see the start of, right? It's beginning right now and it's going to go down. Bitcoin's going to test some support levels. All coins will bleed out a bit. Maybe there's a cool down on the stock market because of GME and so forth. But then we find the bottom and then like you said when people are everybody's scared it goes from greed to fear again and then we
Yeah,
start moving up.
yeah. You want to wait for the blood in the streets, as Warren Buffett says.
For sure, for sure. Brian, great stuff, man. I love this data. I hope the folks watching are finding this useful and they can of course go and check it out on Sentiment, right?
Yeah, get a free trial. Here's our pricing page where you can put in the code Thinking Crypto, all caps. Get a nice, I think 25% off your first month or first year, whatever you buy. But you can also just open a trial and see how you like it for a week and decide after that. So always great catching up with you, Tony. Looking forward to the next one. And, you know, cheers to your entire community and hope you all have a good weekend.
Yeah, likewise, man. Thank you so much.